For joining us for another Farmer's Truck presentation. Today, I'm really excited that we're going to meet our special guest, Cole Jones, the CEO and founder of Local Line. But before we dive into this, I'll talk a little bit about Farmer's Truck, talk a little bit about Cole, and then we'll start unpacking the challenges with sourcing food as a mobile market and how Local Line comes in and will help out quite a bit. So, the topic of this webinar from farm to truck, instead of fork to truck. So it's really about streamlining procurement for mobile markets and helping them get access to the local and also help their farmers join the platform and be participating in this no this local economy, if you will. So my name is Frédéric Laforge. I'm the co-founder and CEO of the Farmer's Truck. We're a social enterprise on a big mission. Our vision: fresh, accessible food in every community. The story started basically in a small farm in Capelin, New Brunswick, where me and Matt was trying to figure out how to get his product to market. Very similar story that what Cole started his journey. Um, he was struggling to get into a farmer's market, was struggling to get into the big retail box store, and so we figured, maybe we could do our own market, maybe we can set up somewhere, and the idea of a mobile market came to be. So we got a little budget together. We had about $25,000 to launch the entire project. So we bought a used truck where we could find one really cheap. We brought it to the farm. We started modifying the truck ourselves, putting this big door on the side, reusing some of the shelving inside for the outside. And obviously the truck had to be red. Farmer's truck has to be red. So we spent quite a bit of time wrapping the truck. If you know about these trucks, they're full of rivets and they're basically quite tough to wrap. And this is us on our first day to our first market about 10 years ago. And this is what it looked like. And so we put a lot of emphasis on making fresh food as appealing as possible. As farmers would say, pile them high to see them fly. So if you do a big display, if you create a sense of abundance, that attracts people. And so we put a lot of emphasis on that. So in 2015, we launched our own mobile farmers market. We've learned a lot through the years, and now we empower others to do the same. Farmer's Truck is now the most popular mobile market truck in North America, collectively serving roughly about 25,000 families a week. Here's some pictures of our trucks. As you can see, communities love the truck. They love the sense of dignity they get when they're shopping on it, and it is a very practical tool to do food access programs. And it's my pleasure to introduce our guest, Cole Jones, the founder and CEO of Local Line, which he grown from his university dorm room into a global software platform serving thousands of farmers and local food buyers in 14 different countries. And here's a quick picture of Cole's first team, version 1.0 of Local Line. And I think, Cole, you were saying this is 2016.
That's right. Yep, almost 10 years ago, just like you guys.
It's crazy. Time flies. So before we get any further, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And really, we're going to unpack a little bit about the challenges with mobile markets. And then we'll talk a little bit about your journey, Cole, and how Local Line fits in this picture. So when we talk to and when we operate our own mobile market, trying to aggregate food from all the local farmers can become basically herding cats. You have to, find where they are. Who do you need to talk to? Do they have logistics? Do they don't? Do they aggregate food for others already? Do they have enough volume to make wholesale make sense for them? Do they rely solely on direct to consumer? So all of these variables makes buying locally challenging. We found that challenging. Our customers are finding that challenging. But what happens is mobile market programs are usually very much value purchasing locally, supporting their local farmers. And oh yes, and if there's any question throughout the webinar, please put it in the Q&A. We'll tackle it at the end. So yeah, so this is basically setting the stage. This is the challenges with mobile markets. So Cole, let's jump into your entrepreneurial journey. And I do have a quote here that I pulled off from one of the blogs that I found. Eating locally isn't just important to me as a business owner, it's critically important to everybody. Maybe we can start there. What do you mean by that?
That's one of my quotes.
It is.
Oh wow. Holy smokes. All right. Yeah, thanks for having me and thank you everybody for your time. I'm looking forward to sharing one, I guess, a little bit more about Local Line today, but I think more importantly, just how we might have some similar experiences solving local food access for businesses of your scale, larger scale, smaller scale, in a lot of different geographies. So we feel as though we've picked up a few things that can be helpful as you guys think about your own procurement strategy and how you want to incorporate local into what you're doing. Right, sure. So look, everybody should be eating locally. Yeah. Seems pretty obvious. When I started Local Line, there was this thing that like it just felt very backwards that the food that is grown the closest to you, literally down the road, is the hardest to access. No one really knows what's available, who's growing it, in what volumes, when it can get to me, how it was grown. So it's the hardest to access, and then I think in some cases it's the most expensive. In some cases that's a misconception. It depends on the supply chain. But it felt to me as though we have this big problem in our North American food system where we have more than enough acreage to feed everybody. So on the one hand, more than enough acreage, to feed the population, but everything in the middle was getting quite messed up, right? We export bell peppers to Mexico, and we import a bunch of bell peppers to like from Mexico. And there was a lot of these things that just felt like maybe the right way to build a food system is probably local first, regional first. Not to say everything must be that. There are practicalities of Mother Nature that we must, deal with. But we should start by building the shortest, most direct supply chains that we can, and then filling in gaps from there. Whereas today it's the opposite. The gap that everybody wants to fill in is like, oh, can I just fill this with a local grower? And it's this like 5 or 10%, extra thing. So philosophically, we just believe that we should have the sort of shortest, most direct route from the field to the truck, or sorry, farm to truck. There was the slide before. And we have spent the last 10 years at our company building software and services and processes and building our team such that we can go and support the industry in building a more local food system.
Because something we talk a lot in food is medicine, and especially recently with regenerative agriculture. And when we talk about nutrients density, when it comes to growing food, when it comes to even cattle, when it comes to beef, there's ways to grow food. But at the end of the day, when you're talking about fruits and vegetable, it needs basically to keep its nutrients density. It needs to be eaten the minute it's harvested is basically peak nutrition. And so to do that and to accomplish that, you need to be not encouraging and supporting local food so that it becomes a reality. Otherwise, then, most farmers today, and then maybe we can segue into that conversation, but you're a farmer today, you have the big farms who have the volume, have the economies of scale, have the machinery to keep things and producing, monocrops. And you have all the other farmers, the smaller ones who are trying to do permaculture, whatever it is, right? Trying to grow things differently, more nutrients, less, maybe more organic. Um, from your perspective and what you've heard in the last, let's say, decade, because, we've been working on this for about a decade, what do you think is the main challenge with farmers? Especially the local farmers, and how to, what's their challenge?
I mean, if you ask a farmer, like they would basically say, "Well, how much time do you have?" Right? I have like 100 challenges on any given day, and I'll have 100 different ones tomorrow. It's a very sort of multi-variable industry where you're sort of juggling a lot of balls at any given time. We're always a little bit careful to sort of paint with a broad stroke this idea of the big farm and the small farm, and the idea that the big farms are like doing things bad and the small ones are doing things good. You have to be really careful about confusing those things. That is not always true. having some of the resources that a large farm has is a good thing because they can make investments in improving their practices and how they want to, produce product and get it to market. They tend to be able to be a little bit more innovative in some of the programs that they deploy versus some of the smaller farms. The big problem that we see with the smaller farms, or I should say maybe the big challenge, the focus is access to market. You need to have certainty that you're going to be able to sell that product that you're producing. And as is the case with many of these small farmers, they are excellent growers. They have this ingrained ability to do more with less, to adapt on the fly. They're, to your point, they are, as a standardization, generally growing more products, a greater diversity of products, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 products, right? And as a result, you're in the juggling act. You need to have the demand and you got to have those customers. Most the part of the reason why Localine is so popular amongst the smaller and medium growers is because most of the time it's not a single source of demand that they have. They're not just doing a CSA, they're not just doing farmers markets, they're not just doing, restaurants. They are doing some combination of those things. And Localine is built for the diversity that exists inside of those small farms. So the way that they manage inventory and do harvests and, communicate their fresh sheets and sell to different kinds of customers. One, of course, hopefully being the mobile markets, right? They can accomplish all of that in our program.
One thing that comes out to me is you have all these mobile markets who are working with individual farmers, trying to support them, figure out how best to buy their product, how to accommodate their practice. Um, what's really exciting about the opportunity here is to bring their farmers on the platform. So not only will they be able to offer this to the network, right? So this is the big opportunity because not only mobile markets are on there, but there's going to be retailers, there's going to be groceries, there's all kinds. Maybe you can give us a bit of a quick overview of the type of customers and people who leverage the platform to purchase and do procurement.
Yeah, so everybody, anybody who eats food or buys food for their business is an active buyer on Local. So we work with everybody from individual like families, consumers, that do the CSA box program to your home. That's all over North America. We also, as you said earlier, have customers across Europe and in Australia, New Zealand, and a few other countries there. We work with the small independent restaurant, the small independent grocer. We also work with Chipotle. And then, as Basil and I were talking about, we work with Tops, which is a large grocery chain in his hometown of Buffalo. They have locations all across New York State and then a few neighboring states as well. So we can do the big scale, we can do the individual. That tends to be the case that the farmers that are the best fit for a mobile market may not be the best fit for like a Chipotle, and then, vice versa. So there's a sort of natural, balance to these things on who's at the right stage for what kind of procurement. So yeah, we work with all sort of sizes and scales and all different kinds across the board. I think with the commonality, the thing that they all share is that almost no matter where you sit in the food supply chain, it is a low margin business. And the way to make it work is great supply partners or great buyers, right? Have direct relationships with whoever you are selling or buying to, and have the tools to be extremely efficient in your operations. The inefficiency is what can really eat into, like, even eating into that margin 0.5% makes a big like difference at the end of the year on the bottom line. So that's what we try to bring to the table, no matter the size of the business. Give them the ability to build those direct relationships, and then give them the tools to do it very efficiently, so that we're not in this cycle of basically wasting time and therefore wasting money.
And basically you're giving farmers, and I'm gonna repeat it quickly, but essentially you're giving farmers a direct-to-consumer tool, right? To take on the CSA, deliver CSA, do this, and build up their patrons, if you will. But you also give them the opportunity for all these other wholesale buyers to, if they want to set up their, and it depends on their capacity and depends on what they produce, and if they do want to do wholesale or not, if they have the capacity to do that. But, basically you're covering it's farmer first. It really is from a user experience perspective, right?
Yeah, it's kind of always been farmer first. If the farmers aren't successful, we're not going to have a very good food system, right? So I think number one is try to build the appropriate tools that allow them to continue to be successful independent entrepreneurs. But the key thing for us is less about whether they sell B2B or sell B2C. If it's a farm that is doing direct sales to a customer, and then vice versa, right? If you are a buyer, like a mobile market, a restaurant, a grocery store, a hospital, a school, a hotel, whatever. But if you are a buyer that wants to build a direct relationship with the farmers that you are buying from, if you fit yes into either of those boxes, then our platform is built for you. And then obviously there are businesses that don't fit into that box and we are not, built for them. But that's sort of our little corner of the universe.
Um, I do have a quote here, another quote that I pulled out.
Another quote. Uh-oh.
It's a bit longer, but I think you're gonna like it. But you said it, so I'm assuming you like it. Um, so this is really when you started, and I do believe that at the beginning, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but it was about, let's help farmers, and the first kind of buyer you had in mind was more restaurants, I
That's
believe.
correct.
Right. So here's the quote. We wanted to help farmers. It quickly grew from that, but it was a simple premise that food grown closest to you is the most difficult to access and typically the most expensive, which you mentioned that just earlier.
Yeah.
That seems really backwards, and we knew things needed to change. And so before we get into a demo or anything like that from your like let's talk about like the journey of you're essentially rewriting how farmers can do their work and participate in the local food economy because before your platform there might have been some other platforms similar to yours, but to connect all that together to make it focus on the farmer and all that stuff. So maybe kind of walk us through from an impact perspective and as an impact entrepreneur when you were thinking when you were building and like the probably hundreds of iterations you've had, because I know this is kind of your lean startup mentality. That's how you approach things, trying to be efficient at it. I'm a product designer, understand that cycle very well. So yeah, kind of give us a bit of a walkthrough, if you will.
I'm sorry, just want to be specific on the question. A walkthrough of
The
the.
journey from yeah, from like, hey, we're going to help farmers, and first it's going to be about making chefs being able in
Right, right,
restaurants,
sure, sure. Yeah.
and it grew legs over time, and like basically what you
Um,
discovered through that. Yeah.
Yeah, all right. We'll do the I mean, there's a lot that happens over the course of almost a decade, but I think there's probably some highlights that I can touch on, right? So the first reason that we wanted to target chefs actually was because we had feedback from a lot of the farmers that we were getting to know in Water the Region in Ontario, that farmers markets were not necessarily always profitable for them as a sales channel. It was a channel. It was access. It was needed, but it wasn't necessarily for them. By the time you factored in a day off the farm, packing everything up, getting there, selling half, not all, et cetera, coming, yeah, all the things that we always know, it wasn't necessarily always profitable. And so the initial thought, and this was I was like a student at the time doing my undergrad. I didn't know shit about any of this other than like, well, we want to build a better food system, so let's try to help. Um, and so what we basically said was, well, chefs are in one place. They have fairly consistent menus. The order volumes are a little higher. Yeah, the margins maybe are not quite the same, but the logistics cost is easier if you're just going to one place. So like maybe we could actually do something like that. So that's how the company started. We had an active marketplace by the time I graduated from my undergrad degree. We had active markets spun up in Waterloo and in Guelph, which were two separate cities. I was making enough money that I was paying my rent and I could just sort of keep working on the business. I didn't necessarily need to go and like, find employment elsewhere. I didn't have to worry about paying my rent. And so spent some time on that. But what became obvious was that the traditional marketplace business model, the whole get a buyer, get a supplier, get a buyer, get a supplier, get a buyer, get a supplier, was going to take way too long, be way too capital intensive, and it was a little bit unclear how we were going to scale to other geographies. If you wanted to help a farmer in BC, well, first you got to go get a buyer, but then you kind of need some farmers, and there was this whole question on how we want to activate that market. And so what we found actually doing it for a little while in Ontario was that at the time, it's not really the case anymore, but I'm dating myself. At the time, Most farmers are still running their businesses on sticky notes and spreadsheets. And we felt as though that is probably the first most important problem to solve if you actually want to unlock the full capacity of our local food system. You gotta know, back to what I mentioned earlier, who's growing what where and who wants it and how to, you gotta be able to communicate that. And so, where we actually then sort of, I want to use the word pivoted loosely, where we adapted our focus for a little while, was just build software for the family farmer that they can use as the operating system for all of their orders, for their inventory, for their customers, invoicing, payments, etc. So, we went down that path for a few years. We built up what ended up being, yeah, go
I'll,
ahead.
I'll inject it real quick, a quick question, a product design question. So, switching to a farmer's lens specific and knowing they're doing, sticky notes and spreadsheets, what was the aha moment? You're like, okay, this is going to create a better experience, get them to onboard, get them to participate. Like, I know you have a big focus on user experience.
Yeah, at the time, like I mean, e-commerce was a thing, but it definitely wasn't as prominent as it is now. You got this was like pre-COVID, before the Shopify and Square boom, right? So I mean, those platforms were still large back then and around, but so much of like there's such a huge difference selling perishable items online versus selling like a t-shirt or something like that, right? That it's very much like at the time it was pretty square peg in a round hole. So for us, the way we broke in first was just building features that were very specific to the needs of the farmer. So the ability to sell an item that actually is a variable weighted item instead of just on a per unit basis. The ability to have different flexible payment methods for different kinds of customers. You might have different terms with different kinds of customers. The way that they run deliveries, the way that they project inventory, what's in the field, what's on hand, do I package it differently? If apples and I sell 8 5-pound bags and 4 6-pound bags, how much of my bushel do I have left? Like all of the math, right? To sort of get. So we basically just went really, really specific on tools for the farmers. But what that allowed us to do is over the years build up a customer base that we can now come to the mobile market operator like you guys and say, we have the full network in any state that you would need to procure from. If you want produce, if you want dairy, if you want beef, if you want beverages, if you want local CPG, I know in this case it's produce, but across the board, right? In every state, we have that coverage because we've built relationships with so many farms, and that is now the thing that we can unlock for the buyer. The discovery of who's in your area, the onboarding and the operations, the actual like ordering and delivery and invoicing for them, and then the reporting and the storytelling so that your customers can sort of feel as though they understand where their products are coming from.
Um, Sorry, I got distracted here by a chat. Sorry. Um, would you like to do a demo now? Should we dive into the demo?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
And then we can talk about yeah, I'll act like a mobile market looking to buy or basically kind of ask you questions as you show the app and how it works. And let's say we pencil in a very popular state, let's say New York. So let's say I'm in New York State, and I want to buy from the New York State farmers. What would that look like? And, I need to order, let's say, twice a week. So let's say I go through about a pallet every couple days, every 3 days. I move a lot of products. So I need to figure that out. So let's kind of walk us through that.
Yeah, cool. All right. So, in the maybe let me just do a little bit of table setting first, right? So when you first log in as a buyer, this is the dashboard that you get hit with. This is all order history, and then these are all of the different reports and graphs that are available to you on your purchases. Pardon the demo account, like some of the graphs look a little bit odd. But these dashboards are customizable. We can configure them, however. Sorry, you guys can see my screen, right?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, sorry, I should have started with that. Um, you can configure them on an as needed basis. And then the features here, I can expand at the bottom here. These are all of the actual features that you would use to be procuring local food in the app. So if we wanted to just follow Fred's, initial ask there was, hey, I'm looking for, local produce in New York State as an example. We would hit the search button here. For fun here, we can turn on our map. So in a minute, the map will populate. And it's a bit of like a, for those that have used like a realtor.com or realtor.ca, the pins kind of adjust
It,
as you sort of move around. Right.
clusters, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And so we can sort of zoom in towards New York, but we can also filter by New York. So where my cursor is at the bottom here, we can also just type for New York State. And then what that'll do is it'll isolate the pins to just New York State, and it'll give us the list of all of the farms in New York State that are available. Now, of course, using the map, you can zoom in even further to your specific region or to your city. You can also search by a specific distance away from your location or from the sort of main urban area that it is that you're servicing. But then from there, you can apply other filters here. So you can look for any kinds of certifications. For example, if it's important that they all have a GAP certification, then you can filter for that. You can filter for growing practices if you're looking for specifically organic product or regenerative. You can filter by ownership type if that's something that's important to you. But anyway, you can sort of narrow down your search and then you can end up finding, the actual list of products. And so in this case, if we wanted to learn more about a particular one, Essex Food Hub, we've got two things that we can do. We can click the info slide out button here, which will give us their contact information. And then in this case, in the demo, they don't have certifications uploaded. But if any of them are organic certified or GAP certified and the associated audit report, you'll be able to see all of that right here. If we actually want to see what products that they have, we can actually just click and it'll take us right to their specific product listing. So we can see all of the different products that they have. We can see the prices. They're not an approved supplier. We have to actually, like as the mobile market operator, we have to take an action to specifically approve them to be ordered from. Once we were to do that, then we would be able to actually start adding products to the cart and placing an order. You can do the same thing if I go back to search with products. So if we go to products, we might do a similar situation here where we can show the map and then filter specifically for New York State. Once it loads for me here, there we go. All right, perfect. So the system is showing 4,300 products in New York State as an example, and we might type for, whatever product is interesting to us. Apple. And then what'll happen is it may take the system just a moment to complete that query. It's just going to give us all of the products that are tagged for Apple. Apple's fairly broad. You can type the specific variety or get a little bit more specific with what it is that you're searching. But it'll give you the ability to search on a per product basis instead of just per farmer as well.
And so in this search view, is it picking up only the farms or the producers who are offering some wholesale opportunity, or is this also blending in the direct to consumer, or both? I guess it can be both, right?
It can be both. It just depends on the kind of business that you as a mobile market operator are registering as, right? So if you're a farmer's truck customer, you're obviously registering as a wholesale buyer. So you'll be just looking at the wholesale opportunities. The farmer can control their listing in their side. So if they want to show up for wholesale or for retail, they can control all that.
On the wholesale side, I'm assuming there is some sort of inventory management, like for what
For
I've
the
purchased and what I've
what happens here, so all of the orders that you actually place, I can even just maybe let me just take you through an actual order as if we were going to place
okay.
one, if that's okay. The demo that we can use here is for Penny's Market. So if we actually had an approved farmer that we wanted to order from, in this case, Penny's Market, we would click to order. We would specify whether we'd like delivery or pickup. In this case, let's pick delivery. The next available delivery date is the 29th, so 2 days from now. Maybe we don't need it until the Saturday because that's the day that we're doing the market, or maybe we're doing it the Sunday or something like that. So we first select the day that we need the product, and then from there we can start actually completing our order. So we might want some basil or some brie cheese or some cauliflower. Great. When we're ready, we've got one of two options. We can either, let me get rid of that cart there. We can either order from another supplier. So you can build an order from multiple farms at once instead of just one. Or if we were ready to check out, then we can click proceed to checkout here. The payment terms can be configured according to how your preference is to pay with your suppliers. So if you want to pay them digitally, if you want to pay them another way, you can set that all up. In this case, let's just, for the sake of the order, say cash. If we have any order notes to leave, we can leave them. And then when we're ready, we click place order. And so what's happened here, once that order, it's going to tell us it's been successfully placed. So you, as the mobile market, have received an email with a copy of the PO that you just placed with the farm. The farm has received an email with their copy of the PO. It also shows up in their local line account in their dashboard. All of the associated metrics from this order, the quantities, the pricing, any of the growing attributes, have automatically then been added to that dashboard that I showed you at the beginning. And then what you were getting at, Fred, here is after I place an order, it all gets logged in my order history here. So the one that we just placed, you can see showing up now. We placed it today for delivery on August 30th. We can view the order. There's a setting, I guess I don't have it configured in this account, where you can modify the order as well. There's a button here to modify the order if you're within the order cutoff time. Orders can be paid from here. They can be downloaded. They can be marked as received. So it's basically like a sort of an order history and a receiving system.
In the example you shown, they were individual item, but I'm assuming, they would have cases or even a pallet, depending on whatever they need to buy.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, we do a ton of full truckload work. So normally 21 pallets. People do full truckload with some of our larger customers, and they're ordering that frequently. So yes, we do everything up from full truckload down to the individual item.
And let's touch base real quick on the grant reporting. So a lot of our customers, they get grants to buy locally. They want to obviously extrapolate from there if they're underrepresented farmer, BIPOC farmer, or if they are, these types of details are important for their reporting. So how would a mobile market kind of pull that out if they have put a bunch of orders in? And like, I know we can search specifically for the vendor and where they fit into their, safety.
Yeah,
Uh,
if you needed reports on a specific supplier you've purchased from, you can filter for orders from them right here. Same thing with orders placed or fulfillment dates, statuses, the delivery location that they had. You can do all that, and then from there, you can select and export. So there's this export button at the top here. We can select whatever data we need and export it. But that would just give you like spreadsheets of the orders. The other thing that normally comes into play with the grant reporting on the dashboard, everything in this dashboard is downloadable. So there's three dots on every thing here, and we can click download results. When we click download results, it gives us four options of how we'd like that file and whether we'd like it neatly summed or whether we want the raw data behind it. And then we click download. And so if people have grants and they know ahead of time the metrics that they're reporting on, normally they would just tell us. We would make sure that we have the appropriate report already configured, and that'll cut down on the grant reporting time. Like probably what should happen is when it's time to report, you shouldn't be more than 2 or 3 clicks away from actually getting the data in the format that you need to be able to include it in your grant reporting.
Okay, tell me one last thing, and then we'll talk a bit about the partnership that we've built together. But I have all these farmers I'm already working with. They're not on local line. I want to bring them on board so they benefit from this. What's the usual process?
Yeah, so there's a button up here called Invite Suppliers. This will, so you can submit a form here, and what it'll do is it'll email the farmer and it'll CC us, and it just says, "Hey, your mobile market has chosen Localine as its operating program for local procurement, and Localine is going to reach out to activate your account and get you onboarded." And so it's something that the our team plays an active role. We've onboarded a little more than 17,000 like
It's
growers so far. So
it's
not
it's white glove experience,
not
right?
our not our first rodeo. We've gotten pretty good at doing it pretty efficiently. But what we do find is that it is really important if for the mobile market to make a collective decision. Hey, we want to support local, but the best way for us to actually do it is in this system, this way that will work for us this year, next year, the year after that. We've got a real system that feels like we can do this efficiently and profitably for your business. And so You would basically just fill in that form. It would probably be for those in the States on this call, my colleague David, that would be the person that would onboard your farms. It doesn't cost anything for them. There's no cost for them to get onboarded. They upload their products. We can help them upload their products. You can place your orders in one central system. It's easy for yourself or for your staff to be able to do this on their mobile device very, very quickly. They don't have to call or email or text or whatever else, you were doing to sort of get those orders in. So it's very simple. And then again, the farmer will receive their email with the PO. It's a pretty simple process.
And I guess the one thing I wanted to highlight is I know farmers can be notoriously difficult to reach, emails sometimes, forget about it. But what I like about this approach is, you've done this 17,000 times. And your team really looks at it like what I'm hearing is a white glove experience. You know that this farmer could be onboarded. You teamwork with them directly. If they're not as technically savvy, I'm sure you've met that challenge a few times. Your team is there to support them. So mobile market operators can feel comfortable and confident that when they do refer a farmer, they will be taken care of.
Yeah, you can like for those that are maybe not familiar with local line yet, I'd encourage you to ask around other people that you know in the industry. They probably are familiar at least a little bit with us, but get guaranteed every single person that you talk to will tell you that we have an exceptional, unmatched customer service. It is the thing that we are most known for, and it's also the thing that we invest very heavily in for the very reason you're hinting at, which is I've done 17,000 of these. I've yet to meet a farmer that wakes up in the morning and says, you know what? I just really need more software. I just can't wait to go buy more software today, right? So the software is a very, very important communication layer for them and a commerce layer that allows them to get their products to market properly. But it was never supposed to be just software. The relationship is so important. Same with your mobile market like operators, right? Same thing. It's not here's software, talk to you, never. It's supposed to be here's software, here's your account manager, here's the kind of things that we're going to sort of take a hands-on role helping you with. And then, same thing with the farmer. We find when you can do both together, that's when things work well.
Yeah, keeping it real. I love it. All right, Cole. So let's talk about our partnership real quick, and then we'll jump into the QA. I see we have about 6 or 7 questions. So um, maybe,
Hello.
oh, hello, Basil.
Yeah.
Do you want to
Sorry,
talk about the partnership? Oh,
I was having some trouble with my microphone, but all set now. Yeah, I'm
no,
happy
what?
to go
Just
ahead.
before we jump into the Q&A, I just want Cole to kind of give an overview of the partnership and kind of how it works. At the end of the my slides, I have a QR code you can scan. It will bring you directly to the local line website with the article and when you can sign up. But Cole, give us a bit of an overview
Sorry, overview of.
of the partnership between local line and Farmers Truck.
Yeah, I mean, so yeah, Fred and I have known each other for many years. We're like one of a handful of Canadian like food, founders, I guess, right? So there's like we should have a WhatsApp chat or something, guys. We don't, but we should. But we've known each other for a while, and I think we always knew at some point it would be a good opportunity for us to partner to support the growth of the Canadian and the American local food systems. But it was just timing, just trying to sort of find the right moment. And then we got reconnected a few months ago, and honestly, the whole thing came together super seamlessly. Like this is already work that we are actively doing with very similar kinds of businesses. And then for Fred, it's like, look, like we're busting our butts here to deliver these excellent units, but these people still have a business to operate, even if they are nonprofits or even if they are grant funded. Like it's this, the economics still have to work at some level. And what could we be doing to increase the likelihood that they can find success? And we landed on, look, probably the win-win-win here is for us to partner up, make our services and our software available to your market so that they can tap into what's grown around them. We know that's likely what your customers, like the customers of the market, are looking for. We know it's good for the farmers, and we know that we have software that is now in a place that we can execute it, across the states at the scale that is required. So very simple win-win-win. We came together. We offered a discount on our services in an effort to just want to, support as much as we can. And I mean, I don't know if there's much more to add to it than that, Fred. It kind
No,
of
no.
like, well, felt like the right time to do it.
It's fantastic. I think that, the opportunity for the mobile markets, they do save a little bit if they are a farmer's truck customer, they can join. But if you're not a farmer's truck customer and you are buying local food, please do join the platform. You don't have to go through the farmer's truck. Um, this is about what I think the most exciting thing about this is that they get to find, discover new farmers to work with and support and, ri rise up, help them become bigger or, support them in any way they can. So I think that's the most important thing. All right, Basil, let's jump into the Q&A. We have we have about 28 minutes or 18
Awesome.
minutes. 18 minutes.
Yes. We don't have all that many questions, maybe a testament to how great you guys went through everything. But question from Sylvia here. Sylvia, do we have to buy the truck to be a part of the USDA grant? Sylvia, I am going to answer you here with an email. I'll put in the chat here. You can reach out to us if you have some questions about grants. Not exactly the exact topic of this discussion, but we can definitely take it on email and answer all your question in terms of any questions about grants.
And maybe we can just preface that, we help you through everything. Identifying the grant, writing the grant, submitting the grant, looking at other grants, keeping looking for grants whatever you need to get this started, we'll be there.
Absolutely. Thank you. I'll post that email there in a second for you, Sylvia. From Salem, does this all the farms in any state? I think the question maybe is, are you available in every state, Cole?
We're available in every single state, yes. But I think as you would expect, there's different densities in different states. I know we've got more than 500 farms in California. I know we have more than 500 in New York and a few other sort of states and sort of Northeast states. I know that if we don't have as many in South Dakota, in, Nevada, New Mexico, like where the growing region is a little bit harder. So yes, we do have farms in every state. We have the coverage you need in most states for sure, but that is just a conversation with our team, depending on where you're located and depending on the products that you're looking for, we can let what we have. And once you're in the system, you'll have full access to the search as well, so you can see it for yourselves.
And I think maybe the call to action here is if you're in one of those states that you don't see a whole lot of participation and you do have a network with farmers, you're working with your local food hub or whatever, pull them in. Like this is a great opportunity for them. So, I think that's a good way forward.
Awesome. And next up, sorry, from Anonymous, is a subscription model something that local line clients farm use as well? How would a subscription work in local line?
Thank you for the question, Mystery Anonymous. I'm going to assume what you mean is a recurring order subscription, like I want carrots once a month in this frequency, at this time, at this place kind of thing. So that functionality does exist in Localine. It's one of our most popular features. It's used both on the B2B side, on the CSA programs, and on the B2C side, and on the B2B side, where to my point earlier, if you're working with chefs and they're fairly consistent in the volumes that they need, or if you guys are fairly consistent, you can place the order as a subscription and set it and forget it. It wasn't shown in the demo today. It's just one extra button that says, do you want this one time or do you want it recurring? If you click recurring, you just specify the schedule and then go to checkout.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Cole, but you do have a product that is standalone for farmers that is like a SaaS, right?
That's right.
Right. So it's that. So those are separate things.
Yeah, separate things. Yeah, I mean, like the way that when the farmer comes to use the tools that Localine has, they pay a flat monthly subscription. That's not what your farms would be doing for the ones you add. They're just working with you. They're not using all the other tools for their business. If they decide they want to, then that's wonderful. And then they pay a fixed monthly subscription in order to do it. So yes, two different things there.
Awesome. Thank you. Another anonymous attendee here. With payment options, you mentioned digital pay. So, for example, would PayPal, Afterpay, or Apple Pay be options?
So I can go through all of those are no right now. So PayPal, Apple, or Afterpay and Apple Pay are no right now. Apple Pay is on our roadmap. Right now we've got three digital payment options. We integrate with Stripe, with Square. We have our own called Local Pay. We built our own relationship with the card companies and the rails that is required to run these kinds of payments. You can do credit card payments. You can do in the United States ACH payments. And then in Canada, you can do the EFT payments. So you could do all three of those, on our app, but it is not PayPal or Apple Pay.
And
And I think
two, yeah, go ahead, sorry.
the Apple Pay and these other players, they just take the margins is, that's the challenge, right? To integrate
Yeah,
the tech.
like local pay, our version is more affordable. So we've been able to negotiate more competitive rates and we don't like we just pass that straight on to our customers, right? So the fees are a little bit cheaper. There's not as much flexibility there. I mean it just does cost roughly speaking 2.9% and 30 cents to accept a credit card and roughly anywhere from between 0.5% and 1% to do the ACH or the EFT payments.
Which would
But
be preferable for the mobile market as they're buying. Seems to be the logical way.
yeah.
Um, awesome. So I think just to piggyback off of that question, someone asked about Snap. Is Snap an option?
Not right now, no. It's another item for us that's on the roadmap. I think that it's very possible to do. It's actually like the integration with the Snap and being able to do it is actually pretty achievable. There's a few things in a technical sense on our system that we need to first work through. Just a simple example would be, let's say that I'm placing an order and some of the items are Snap eligible and some of them are not. So if it's $100 order, I need to be able to apply $50 of Snap to it and $50 not to it. That requires the proper setup on our side, the proper, infrastructure and organization in order to support that kind of flexibility in the transaction. So it's on the list, not something that I'm able to give like a timeline on at this exact moment, but we'll get there at some point.
And correct me if I'm wrong, this would be for the direct-to-consumer experience, right? So for the wholesaler, they'll do ACH or whatever, right? Because, well, the buyer, in the relationship we're talking about here with mobile markets trying to find more local food, they would have probably their own machine to do their snap, right? So the what you're talking about is more the direct-to-consumer for the farmer, right? The
Yeah,
SaaS.
I
Yep,
guess
yep.
I guess that's actually a good call out. Yeah, like we're not necessarily the point of sale system that you guys would be using at the market to be processing all of the payments from your customers. So if you guys were to use like a Square POS or Stripe or some of the other applications that are Snap integrated, then yeah, you should be able to process it with your customers, process their Snap payments, and then on the back end it would be a wholesale purchase using our platform and probably paying through ACH or something like that. Yeah.
Awesome. Last couple of questions here. So this is also from Salem or Salam. Sorry if I'm butchering it. How often are the farmers updating their inventory? Cool.
So the most of the farmers are using Localine as their system of record for all of their sales, and so they are in our app multiple times a day for an average session of about 20 minutes. So they are updating the inventory usually daily. I think where that is a little bit different though would be if you guys are bringing the supplier or the farmer to us and we are onboarding them, then part of what they're going to need to understand is that the inventory needs to be updated. And normally it's done on a weekly basis in advance of your ordering, right? So if you're ordering on a weekly basis, maybe it's two times a week or whatever it is. Then we can be, communicating with the farmer. You can set simple reminders like an email for them to say, hey, it's time to update your inventory, and they can get in there and do it.
Awesome. And last question here from Matthew. So when the farmer is added to local line, is the database I viewed sorry, let me start that again. A little typo here. So when the farmer is added to local line, is the database viewed by all others that have local line as a procurement platform?
By default, no. So when a farmer's added to the platform, they would just be visible by you, as in if you're the person that invited them and, got them onboarded. But if the farmer wants to participate in the broader market, if they want to be visible by, yes, other buyers in the area, but also other farmers, other food hubs, like it's a very open network, right? If they want that to be able to connect with them, then there's a toggle that they have in the system and they can turn it on and be visible by everybody else.
Which is a great opportunity. I mean,
Awesome.
that's, yeah, fantastic.
And that wraps. Oh, one more question. Spoke too quick here. From Monette. What if a farm does not have the units available and record is not up to date? Is the invoice updated and an update of produce? I think just asking in case, the farmer did not update their units, what would happen in that case?
Yeah, I think if I'm trying to maybe guess a little bit there on that question, I think what you might be asking, you can tell me if I'm totally wrong, but what happens if the volume, the units that are delivered are different than what was ordered? So if I order, 10 cases and only 8 show up or something, how do you sort of account for that? That's where in the demo that modify order button comes into play. So you click that and then you adjust what was received. So if there's any difference on what was ordered versus what was received, you adjust it, you click save, it notifies the farmer, and our system has a full credit platform built in, so it automatically adds the credit to your account that rolls off the next order. If I got that wrong, then you can tell me, but that's how we handle it.
I think that's a pretty cool feature as well.
That
So
is really cool. Yeah, because we've turned around orders, I mean, at least once a week.
Yeah.
Farmer, we know, hey, I know it was raining this week and you were picking up strawberries. These are going to go bad in a couple days. So no, you you got to do some jam. I'm not picking up these strawberries.
Yeah, 100%. And you don't want to be in like a refund debit credit situation with these small variances on each order. You want the credit system to just roll it in and apply it to the next purchase, which is the way that it works for us.
yeah,
Yep.
super
Smart.
super frictionless. Smart.
Smart, yeah.
Um, okay, and I think that did answer it, because he said thank you. Thank you, Mona. Awesome. So, Fred, did you want to share the QR code?
Yes, let me do that.
And I think we are all wrapped up here. From my
Yeah.
end, thank you, Cole, for joining us.
Yeah, so everybody, please scan the QR code. This is the page where we talk about the partnership, and basically you can sign up there. If there's any other questions, obviously you can reach out to local line directly or us, and we'll make the introduction, connect you with the right people. But we do appreciate you being here, and thank you for your time, and we'll see you at the next webinar.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.